Nick, I want to start out, by acknowledging where you're at, which is, a really great place. Kind of like willing to get right into the bestiality of the outcome of, you know, uh, poorly designed, mal-designed, malperforming monetary system. Okay, that's what we have here. Okay, you think of it and kind of express it in terms of contracts and contract law and all of that. And basically, the fact of the matter is that free peoples have the ability to set up any kind of a monetary system that they choose, and yet they choose to set up this absolutely insane monetary system, unsustainable, okay, undemocratic, and you're right into the fact that it can't work. So if it can't work, then there's something wrong. Okay. Now, if you don't want to acknowledge that if it can't work, there's something wrong. Well, we're going to end up with one of those outcomes. Gary, saying, the deaths, and the poverty and the grief and the suffering and all of that. Or we can take a rational approach and say, wow, the system was flawed. You know, that's how we ended up with all this. Yeah, there were some greedy people that did some greedy things, and most of it was really salesmanship, but they bought it. So, about being, a 500 word book away, I'm sorry, 500 page book away from having a solution that makes sense from my perspective. Now, again, to acknowledge what the system is and how it works. And I've probably done this before, but Stevens R. Lang has written an 800 and some odd page book. Uh, yes, it's a pricey book, and I admit that. But in there's proof, okay, of the contention that I make, which is that it is the people's money system. Okay, it's always been the people's money system, but we haven't actually gotten it yet. That we have a rich history in this country, okay, of the colonies, and the early Continental Congress, um, of using a people's money system, okay, and that's what we need to do, and money has to come into existence without any debts being created, and that's the key, and that we need a permanent money system, and all of that stuff, Nick. That somehow I think that I'm right. Somehow, Nick. Okay, not just I'm right. I just happen to be a guy who has had the tremendous benefit of my dad, having gotten involved in the monetary, in needing to understand the monetary system in order for him to continue with his ability to do business as a businessman, okay, to understand how the monetary system worked, and to impart that onto me, So life is an education, you know. I had the benefit of 30 or 40 years of my dad telling me, Joey, when you come to understand the money system, that's what it's all about, okay? And we need to change the money system. And you somehow in there, you made reference to the fact that the government is going to increase, the United States government, our government, mine, increase the national debt by 200, sorry, by $2 trillion. That's what they're proposing. The debt limit. So you know, I'm the only one. Among all your 2,000 subscribers or 5,000 subscribers that you've got out there, who was told by their fathers, okay, that in my lifetime the national debt was going to increase by $1 trillion in 1 year. At the time we had 200 years of history and only $250 billion of national debt. Okay, and tell me, is not possible that in your lifetime, I mean, assuming I live, that the national debt will not go up by $1 trillion in 1 year? You know, did it happen? Yeah. And he said, when that happens, it's going to be 2 trillion the next year, and then it's going to be exponential amounts to the point where the system comes crashing down, and we do have to do something about it, and that's where we're at. And you and and a lot of people in the world are recognizing that those on the out there on the extremes, the Latvians, for whatever their reason, having to do with their, outcome of the Soviet structure, to Iceland, to Ireland, as you're saying. And what are we going to have to give up in order to settle the accounts? And like I said, you know, we're not settling the accounts the way the accounts are set up, Nick. Okay. Now you're saying, well, oh, it might lead to wars, or it might lead to starvation, or depravity, or whatever. And I'm saying, it don't have to. It could all come about by virtue of having a system that replaces this system. Okay, and since that is achievable, it should be preferable. Now, uh, in terms of trying to get people to understand, what we're talking about, I think I've done this before. Held up Arthur Kitson's book on a fraudulent standard again. Something that my dad gave to me. Back in the '60s, or because this was written originally in 1917 when we were all on the gold standard and stuff. And if anybody, all the goldies that are coming in here and listening in, if you read this book, okay, and his counterparty book, which is the scientific answer to the money question, okay, this is the end of the gold discussion. Gold has its place, but it ain't related to currency. It's not related to monetary stability. It's not really. In fact, it's the opposite. So that takes care of the gold part of it. Okay, so we need international monetary relations. But he has a great chapter in his book, in which he relates extensively to another book written by another, I think, of your British counterparts, which was Oswald Stoll. Okay, he was a tremendous British businessman. Did the London Theatre and all of that. And he wrote a book called The People's Credit. People's Credit. The Money System Common. You see it? Um, in which he totally, destroyed the notion of the private Bank of England, being able to control. And I'm just going to spend the rest of this time here reading some quotes from, again, Arthur Kitson's book, in which he's relating to Oswald Stoll's The People's Credit. There is no other reason for these periodical industrial troubles, monetary industrial troubles, except the natural operation of our own foolish money laws. Okay? Further, the same laws are responsible not only for the frequent and often violent fluctuations in the bank rate, but for the imposition of interest charges on credit, which in reality belongs not to the banks, but to the public. The people's money system. The money system common. It's our money system. They've set it up so that we're able to be enslaved, but it's still our money system. Just jumping forward. At any rate, the average banker endeavors to impress this fact indelibly upon the mind of each of his clients, viz. that the granting of bank loans is neither obligatory on his part nor in the fulfillment of any right of any client. And in the fulfillment, and the banker is undoubtedly correct. Our laws, as well as the whole deferential attitude of our successive governments to the banking profession, confirm the belief that bankers belong to a select and legally privileged class who are under no obligation to render the public any services whatever, and if and when they choose to do so, the public must regard such services as favors and act accordingly. But now let us carefully examine the transactions that amounts to. Our banks constitute a state-supported private monopoly which has grown under specially favored laws and customs. That's what's got to end.